The Apollo Neuro just may be the strangest wearable that I've ever had the chance to try out. See, the way almost all wearables work is that they are designed with sensors to capture data from you, the user, like tracking steps, heart rate, and sleep, and in some cases also the environment, like your elevation or GPS readings. The Apollo Neuro doesn't. Instead of taking information from you, it does the exact opposite and gives your body information. The Apollo Neuro signaling to your body via vibrational input to decrease your sympathetic or stress state and increase your parasympathetic or relaxed state, with the idea that this should help lower your overall stress, improve your sleep, and recovery metrics like heart rate variability or HRV. The question, of course, is, does it actually work? And is it worth the price, which as of the time of this review is a substantial $399. So let's dig into it. So in terms of design, the Apollo Neuro is mostly just plastic with a metal clip that a Velcro strap slides into that can be worn on your arm or leg. And while it feels comfortable enough, its looks leave a lot to be desired. When worn on the lower leg, it gives off a house arrest vibe, and when on the arm, it just looks too large and a bit out of place. The band can be replaced, and it's pretty easy to take on and off should you want to alternate colors, or in my case, I would occasionally change back and forth from a wristband to a leg band. Now, there are two buttons on the side of the Apollo Neuro, which can be used to increase or decrease the intensity of the vibration. However, in order to turn it on, you will need to use the app or have it set up on an automatic schedule. And while the app is easy to use and fairly straightforward, I did have some issues with the automatic schedule working correctly. Sometimes the Apollo Neuro would start at the correct time, and others it just wouldn't. And I couldn't really figure out why it would work automatically at some times and not during others. Now, the battery life here lasts around 2 days, depending on how much you use it, at which point it will need to be charged via the included micro USB charger. So what makes the Apollo Neuro so unique here is that it is designed to lightly vibrate for several hours a day while you wear it. The goal of this vibration being to signal your body into activating a more parasympathetic or relaxed state. The idea being that many of us, especially those who are more prone to stress, are too often in a state of fight or flight, which can wreak havoc long term on your health, sleep, and even emotional state. And according to Apollo Neuro, you can see significant improvements here by using the vibrational programs it offers for at least 3 hours a day, 5 or more days a week. The vast majority of this time suggested for when you are winding down in the afternoon or when you are getting ready to go to sleep. There are 7 modes here that you can choose from in the app, but the 3 that I used most were the energy and wake up mode, which is designed to increase your heart rate and help you feel alert first thing in the morning, the relax and unwind mode, which is supposed to help you wind down in the afternoon, and the sleep and renew mode, which is designed for use prior to and while going to sleep. Now, if you want to judge whether or not something like the Apollo Neuro works, the biggest piece of data that you want to evaluate is going to be your heart rate variability or your HRV status. And the reason for this is that if you are actually seeing more activation in your parasympathetic branch of your nervous system, your HRV score should increase, which is also a great signal for improved recovery and overall health. And Apollo Neuro actually does a much better job than most other devices at making all of the research for it available, with breakdowns and links to each of the studies readily available on their website, the vast majority of which showing significant improvements in participants' HRV status, sleep, and being able to lower anxiety and stress. Now, looking deeper into each of these studies, the overall findings remain somewhat impressive, though it is evident that many of these studies are not as groundbreaking as they are made up to be. The largest study here, which shows the best results, takes data from volunteers who own both an Apollo Neuro and Oura Ring, and after using Apollo Neuro 3 or more hours a day, 5 or more days a week, this group saw an average of an 11% increase in their HRV, 19% increase in deep sleep, 14% increase in REM sleep, and a 4% decrease in resting heart rate. However, it should be noted that studies like these can be misleading, as these were all volunteers who had already purchased and thus likely believed that Apollo Neuro would help them. So it wasn't a group of random people, but those who most likely felt a high degree of stress beforehand and so wanted to purchase the Apollo Neuro in the first place. And of course, with no alternative group to compare them to or double-blind studies, it's very possible many of these improvements were just a placebo effect. Now, I'm not saying that it was, but the research, while promising, makes it unclear. There are other studies here though, and one of which was a double-blind, randomized, placebo-controlled crossover clinical trial. And in this study, they also saw an average increase of 10% in HRV levels, as well as a 25% increase in focus and concentration while under stress. Though it is important to note that this increase in HRV was taken while the subjects were exposed to stress via a cognitive test, not while they were asleep, which would indicate better health and recovery. And while this does indicate that Apollo Neuro helps keep stress levels down, which would likely indicate improved HRV readings over time, you can't fully draw that conclusion from this study alone. Again, it's promising, but I would like to see more done. Now, of course, I tested it myself for over a month, following the suggestions set by Apollo Neuro, using it for 3 or more hours per day and 5 or more days per week. And I will say that subjectively, I did feel more calm when using it, especially in the afternoon. I can also say that I felt a much stronger effect when using it on my arm rather than my leg. So because of that, I stopped using it on my leg after the first week and just went arm only. And accounting for most other factors, including my training, sleep, time spent outside, and other factors like cold baths and various forms of massage and compression therapy, after all that was considered, the Apollo Neuro was likely responsible for a 2 to 3% increase in my own HRV levels during this time. And given that I consider myself a fairly low stress individual and somebody who already sleeps well, the fact that I saw an over 2% increase in my HRV from using Apollo Neuro is pretty significant. And I could definitely see the possibilities of how it could provide much closer to a 10% improvement for somebody who's a bit more stressed out or who has more trouble sleeping. So while N equals 1 here, of course, just based on my experience as well as combing through the studies done on Apollo Neuro, I think there's a good chance that a lot of the claims that they make here are going to end up being fairly accurate. I think, of course, that there does need to be a lot more research done here, and they do say that there are 9 additional studies currently in ongoing clinical trials, so it'll be interesting to see the data from those once they are complete. Now, given the cost of Apollo Neuro, which is pretty expensive for what it is at $399, I think you would need to see some fairly significant improvements to make it worth the actual cost and the hidden cost of having to wear this large, ugly band. And I think if you're someone like me who is not too stressed out very often and already gets pretty good sleep, then I probably wouldn't suggest it, even though I did see some benefit from wearing it. However, if you are somebody who is very high stressed or maybe has some sleep issues, then I think it's likely that you could see much better results than I did. Maybe something more in line with what was shown in some of those non-randomized studies. And in that case, the $399, while still fairly expensive, seems much more worth the investment. And I know I've made a bit of fun of how the Apollo Neuro looks, but the truth is the vast majority of time that you're going to be using it is going to be in the afternoons or at night when you really aren't out and about. So it's not that big a deal. Let me know what you think about Apollo Neuro in the comments below. This is Colin Jenkins with Connect the Watts. Appreciate you being here for this review of the Apollo Neuro, and I'll see you next time.